Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council meeting. Welcome those who are sitting in the audience tonight and those who are streaming and live and watching the council meeting in the nice, warm, cozy home, hopefully. I will call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, February 11th. The time is 5:30 p.m. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Baraboo,
Present.
Friedli, Paulson,
Here.
Beyondich,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Aaron Sally,
Here.
Huffy.
Here, would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the public forum. This is a time where someone from the general public may come up and address the council for questions or comments or any concerns that they may have. Does anybody in the audience like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, the consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion unless a councilor or a citizen of the city of Virginia requests that the item be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval and corrections of the minutes of the regular meeting that was held January 28th, 2020, and the special meeting that was held on February 4th, 2020. Item 5.2, adoption of finance resolution number 20-003, the schedule of bills. And item 5.3, approve the following travel requests. 5.3A for the police department. Chad Nicola, Assistant Chief, to attend the Advanced Pistol Rifle Instructors Course, March 16th through the 19th, 2020, in Alexandria, Minnesota, at a cost of $701.19. This is a budgeted item for training for the police department. Item 5.3B, Council and Administration. The League of Minnesota Cities Legislative Conference for 2020 is scheduled for March 18th through the 19th in St. Paul at a cost of $109 per person and $170 for hotel plus mileage. Item 5.3C, the Fire Department, Dustin Erickson and Zach Yerzak to attend the National Firefighters Cancer Symposium February 26th through the 29th, 2020 in Miami, Florida at a cost of $1,850. And item 5.3C2, Eric Jonason to attend the FDIC conference April 19th through the 25th, 2020 in Indianapolis at a cost of $476. Item 5.4, approve the exempt permit for Range Mental Health to conduct a raffle at the Alcott Park on May 14th, 2020. And the last item on the consent agenda, 5.5, approve the temporary liquor license for Friends of the Greenhouse event that will be held on March 21st, 2020. These are the items before us today for the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion from the council.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as documented.
Councilor Friedli moves to approve the consent agenda. Is there support? Support by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, appearances. Under item 6.1, we do have someone to provide us some information. Today we had another meeting on the MEC design for the Miners Event and Convention Center. It's one of many meetings that we've had. We'd like to give an update and a recommendation for a commissioning agent. So we have us in the audience today to give us some information about that for those who are unable to attend today's meeting. Eric Reg from DSGW regarding the recommendation for B3 commissioning agent for the Miners Event and Convention Center project. Eric, would you please come forward and for the benefit of the rest of us as a refresher and for those in the audience, the reason why we need to do this. And in the audience today also is our Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here tonight. For the record, the commissioning agent is a requirement for deed. It is to acquire your $12 million in funding. The commissioning agent is a true third-party verification on the mechanical, electrical systems showing that we would comply with the state of Minnesota's B3 requirements. So it's similar to a when we do concrete pours or steel testing, a special inspection, it's a third-party special inspection. So between DSGW and Kraus Anderson, we sent out for quotes to get quotes on the B3 commissioning. I can say in the pre-design document that was sent to the state of Minnesota, we had a budget of $50,000 for this commissioning agent requirement. And if you can see the total of the bids that were sent out in your packet between EAPC and ICS, they both came in under $50,000. In our committee meeting today, full disclosure on ICS is that ICS does own O&E. They're part of the same family of companies, and DSGW has retained O&E Engineering as our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing consultant. So there is some being just honest with the council about that full disclosure. We did talk with the B3 reviewing agent, Pat Smith, and they did state that although they can be, it's not a state statute that it's required that they have to be a separate company. They just want to make sure that the same engineering team isn't working on both sides of that fence. So they have to be two separate engineering teams. But I think the decision at the committee meeting today with the people that were in attendance was to move forward with EAPC. They have a price of $49,500. They're slightly more expensive than ICS, but they are truly that third-party independent. They are not connected with O&E Engineering at all.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And I see that the difference between is 49.5 and 48.7, so it's very close. And to keep that separation, as you explained, would be something to seriously consider. Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, and the other thing that we had discussed is that should we need an envelope check, which is the outside of the building, we would have to contract out for that. And the EAPC, that is something they offer. None of the other companies offer that. So if we ever do need to do that in the future, we'd have to contract out separately anyway. So it's kind of already part of, it's an additional cost, but it's, the company would already be with us. So with that, I will move that we accept the bid from EAPC for $49,500.
Moved by Councilor Johnson to select and approve the recommendation to hire EACP as the commissioning agent for the MEC project. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you kindly.
Okay, we'll move to item 7, unfinished business. We do not have any unfinished business scheduled this evening. Move to item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1 is we need to change the time of the council meeting that's scheduled for Tuesday, February 25th. Move it from 5:30 to 4:30. And the reason we need to do that is because the caucuses are being held that same night, and we're required not to hold the caucuses. I can't hold a council meeting after 6 p.m. So we thought that 4:30 on Tuesday is that's the recommendation. Moving forward, to have it at 4:30 in the afternoon to make this exception, move the time on Tuesday the 25th to that time, or we'd have to change the day altogether. So the clerk has scheduled this for 4:30 for Tuesday the 25th. Unless that's not a conflict for anybody, I will look for a motion to approve, to move that time change to 4:30 instead of 5:30 on Tuesday, February 25th.
I'll move for discussion.
A move by Councilor Bearable for discussion. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councilor Paulson. Further discussion. Councilor Bearable.
You know, I had a conversation with Pam today about this. You have a primary election coming March 3rd plus early balloting. Well, how stupid are they to have a caucus also along with this, doubling up what they want to do? How do they determine, Pam, and I didn't ask you this question, how do they determine how the delegates are going to the National Convention when they have two different processes? How are they going to determine that? Nobody has said, I can't find any information any place. Because in the states like Iowa, they got all messed up this year, it's just caucuses. So how do they decide the delegates that go on the Democratic and Republican? We know because there's only one. But how do they determine on the Democratic side? Does the caucus take precedent, or does the primary election?
The primary election, but there won't be any different if the ballot has 10 people on it on March 3rd. It will have 10 people on it in August for that primary. It will not eliminate anybody.
Only your legislator knows.
The
for
only
sure.
way they will be eliminated is if they drop out or other people could be added.
No, I understand that portion. But how do they determine, because these particular primaries or the caucuses determine what legislators go to their conventions? How do they separate that?
I'm not sure if they will be doing other voting at the caucuses that they have to do just in a regular order of business that they normally do at the caucus. So they will be doing that, but they will not be voting for any presidential.
Oh, it's not presidential then? It's just state? Okay, I misunderstood that.
State
Okay, I thought it was presidential too.
No,
Just Iowa did.
The election is a presidential.
Okay, okay, that clarifies it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You got my clarification, and I must have misunderstood earlier today.
Okay, so, thank you, Counselor Baraboo. That answers your question. Okay, is there any further discussion? It's been moved and supported to move the council meeting to 4:30 PM, Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.2 is adopt a resolution for the final payment, I repeat, the final payment to St. Louis County for the 9th Avenue West reconditioning project in the amount of $297,622.54. And this is money that came from that state aid fund, right? Right, that's that state aid project. It comes out of those funds that we expended for the reconditioning of, refurbishing of that entire part of 9th Avenue West.
I'll make a motion for that final payment.
I'll support.
Moved by Councilor Freely to approve the final payment in the amount of $297,620.54 to St. Louis County for the 9th Avenue West reconditioning project, and supported by Councilor Baraboo. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, information from the Planning and Zoning meeting that was held on February 3rd, 2020. Pardon? I'm sorry, did I miss that? Oh, I apologize for that. Item 8.3, adopt the resolution, thank you, Pam. Adopt the resolution to hire Brooke Dahl for the part-time library clerk position. As you recall, we approved these part-time clerk positions before. Someone left the position, and that left an opening, and after staff made their another round of interviews, Brooke Dahl was selected and is recommended to fill this position. Councilor Johnson.
I will move the resolution hiring Brooke Dahl, part-time library clerk.
Moved by Councilor Johnson and supported by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Now we move to item 8.4, information from Planning and Zoning meeting that was held on February 3rd, 2020. Meeting was called to order at 4:30 PM by Commission member Mary McReynolds. They approved the minutes of the meeting. They had election of officers. It was moved by Littler, supported by Werner, to nominate Mary McReynolds as the chair and Jamie Winger as the vice chair and Jacob Littler as the secretary. They set the meeting times and dates for the first Monday of each month at 4:35 PM. And so under item 5, they had any public hearings at this session, but under item 5, under old business, there was a proposed chicken ordinance. And the commission reviewed the draft of the proposed chicken ordinance that reflected the revisions from the January 17th, 2020 Planning and Zoning meeting. It was clarified that the proposed chicken ordinance would require a full neighborhood survey in order to obtain an annual review. Individuals with permits would not be allowed to sell any product from the home or from farmers markets. Butchering of chickens would not be prohibited. Okay, so Commissioner Byrd indicated he must make a decision on what's best interest for the city. He didn't think that was the case, but there was a vote moved by Littler and supported by Winger to forward the proposed chicken ordinance as written to the city council for their consideration. The ayes were 3, the nays was 1, and the motion carried. The current chicken ordinance is currently being reviewed, or has been reviewed by our city attorney, Mr. Lindsay, and Mr. Lindsay has informed us that he will be bringing that, those final revision of that in his review to the next committee of the whole meeting, which is scheduled for 9 a.m. Next Tuesday. Okay.
Mayor, will we see that prior to that 18th meeting? We'll get it on our emails? Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lindsay will forward it to the clerk, and we'll have that, so we have reviewed it before the next committee of the whole meeting. Thank you, Councilor Baraboo. I would just like to address it because it's planning and zoning, the article that was in the Mesaba Daily News regarding the chicken ordinance. There was a reporter in attendance, and she conducted an interview with one of the, either conducted an interview or it was stated at that meeting by one of the commissioners, I think it was Commissioner Littler, that the city council punted this back to them. And so it was in the paper. I don't know if anybody else got a call about that, but I certainly got several calls. And this is a zoning issue. It's a zoning ordinance issue in which planning and zoning has the responsibility to look at these things, and they did. The city council never punted this there. This was their responsibility. They were unable to, in the first meeting, come up with a recommendation moving forward. They had to be revisited, so they actually punted it back to themselves, so to speak. And so, they vetted all that out. So for the clarification of the general public, this is a zoning ordinance that's being considered by our planning and zoning. That's their duties and responsibilities they have as appointed commissioners, and we're following all the proper procedures and processes moving forward. And so we will have something for you at the next committee of the whole meeting, and the public, of course, will be invited to attend and discuss as we move forward with the consideration of this ordinance. So I just want to make that clarification. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, I'm thankful that you brought that up, because I did have a few people ask me about that. And so just if we could get some continued clarification, this is the first time at the Committee of the Whole next week that this issue is going to be coming before this body. As of yet, it has not come forward to this body. So there was no punting that has taken place.
Right. That says it all in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's all. This is all information about the planning and zoning meeting that was held. Now we'll move to item 9, the committee reports. Item 9.1, the Street and Alley Committee meeting that was held on February 3rd, 2020. I'll turn the portion of this meeting over to the Street and Alley Committee Chair, Councilor Baraboo, for a report from Street and Alley.
Okay, thank you.
And your members of your Street and Alley Committee are?
Members are Carl Bonzelli and Steve Johnson and myself.
Thank you.
Steve was unfortunately had another commitment that day, so it was just myself and Carl. No decisions were actually made at that meeting to present forward. You have the short set of minutes, and Pam took minutes. We reviewed the feasibility study on all the streets that we had put together. Matt Reed brought those. Those are complete except for we added the Pine Mill Court streets in there, so he'll be doing a feasibility for that. Those will all be brought back. There will be public hearings on the feasibility, so that'll be coming up. We also took a look and talked about the assessments, because he's incorporated what those proposed assessments may be on properties. They're not final. We are going to go back and review the special assessment process that we had. Under state law, with where this money is coming from for bonding and stuff, we have to assess at least 20% minimum. Our assessment policy is now 50%. So we're going to be looking at that to see what that has. That hasn't been completed, but you probably got information from Pam on the special assessment policy. It should be in your, it's not in this portion, but it was in an email she sent out earlier. Also, we're going to be coming back with a list of the streets. We did make one decision, I'm sorry, we did make one decision. And that was the decision that Mr. Matt Reed and our city engineer, Bill Hennis, will prioritize the streets because there is coordination of how we can do these in sequence. It's going to be a 2-year process anyway. It's going to be, well, actually more than that, it's going to be 21, 22, 23, 24. So it's going to be a 4-year process to get all these streets done. But we want to make sure that if we've got a couple close together, we can do them so that the mobilization costs will be done, and they'll be bringing that back. We do have another meeting scheduled. If anyone wants to attend, it will be on February 25th to start going over all these. So this process will start to move forward very fast in the future.
Is it 25th or the 27th?
Oh, I thought it was the 25th.
27th, okay.
27th.
On the
And I got it
27th.
wrong on my
And so,
calendar.
Counselor Berbo, as this moves forward through your committee, there'll be a point in time where we're inviting the public later down the road. They'll have some input, but we'll be able to explain all that through our engineering department, through street and alley and the rest, and the full council itself.
Yep. Yeah, the feasibility studies will all be public hearings on the feasibility. This is where you give the residents a chance on any of these streets to come in if they want the project done or if they don't want the project done. Some of the costs will be explained, and that's why we have to work with the assessment policy first to get that straightened away to decide what we're going to do. And then we'll have to have a vote on council on that particular issue also. But Pam is right. I was looking at the wrong part of my calendar. It is the 27th meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll all get notice of that.
Okay, and the time is going to be 9 o'clock, Pam?
9 o'clock.
9 a.m.?
9
Okay.
a.m.
I would ask one more thing of your committee, Counselor Berbo, as you're moving through the street and alley process. I know that we were talking about now that the new county facility is built and traffic flow is starting to level off, and we're better understanding of how that traffic moves around the government center. And I'd like this committee, and I've talked to our city administrator about that, to look at changing some of the streetways, the one-way streets and those kind of things. Do come incorporate our engineering department, your street and alley chair, our engineering department, those kind of things, to try to find a way and a recommendation moving forward to bring back to the committee of the whole meeting some recommendation on how we can better utilize those one-way streets, if we could change them to two-way or not, and the recommendations, the pros and cons of that. And could you put that on your agenda?
I certainly will put that on the agenda. Also on that 27th meeting, I believe our bond council gentleman is going to be at that meeting to discuss how we're going to do the bonding for these streets. So
Okay.
it won't be done this year, it'll be done later on down the road for 21, 22. But he's going to be there to explain. George Eilerson, I'm sorry. Drew a blank there.
From Northern Securities?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for that report, Councilor Berbo.
You are very welcome.
Okay, we'll move, and does anybody have any questions or comments for Councilor Berbo about the street and alley project moving forward?
Can I make one more comment?
Please.
You will be informed as counselors on any of these meetings if you can't attend when we have our committee of the street and alley committees, because Pam will be taking short minutes like this or long minutes, depending on what they are, or someone in the clerical department will take minutes. You'll all receive them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 9.2, the committee of the whole meeting that was held on February 4th, 2020. Normally, this is to be a report that would be given by our city administrator, but I'll try to muddle through it here. Item 9.2A, we discussed the live barn contract, and the live barn contract, if everyone recalls, was a method, a video streaming method that was proposed for the new MEC Center. We had some significant discussion about that. We did consult Brian Lindsay, our city attorney, and it was moved and supported at committee level to deny the approval of the live barn contract per the recommendation of our city attorney and the concerns that the council had regarding the services they provide, particularly as it relates to privacy. So it was moved and supported to deny the live barn contract at this time.
And also move that at the official meeting.
Moved by Counselor Bearable and supported by Counselor Johnson. Further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Mayor. And this will be, as we move through the planning process, some sort of ability to watch Little League, or the hockey games, youth hockey games, and that will be looked at by the Parks and Rec Director moving forward. So it's not, this contract is off the table, but the process is not in it. So it will be kept on the radar and will be discussed in future meetings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9.4B, approve the letter of understanding for the Public Works Administrative Assistant. You have in your packet that information. We did discuss that is related to the administrative assistant who splits her duties and responsibilities between Public Works and Park and Rec.
Mr. Mayor, I will make the motion that we approve the memorandum, I believe it's a memorandum of understanding with Public Works for the increase for the Public Works Administrative Assistants. I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Councilor Bearable to approve. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9.2C, approve the scope of work from Flattery and Hood, which is an attorney firm specializing in this particular case for the environmental issues. And this is approve the scope of work for the Northern Heights Environmental Project near the golf course, and the amount not to exceed $15,000. And we looked at, we needed an environmental legal representation. This has been a long series of meetings and discussions with the EPA. We've been using Flattery and Hood as a recommended party and helped to take Daniel Marks to help litigate and mitigate and discuss and make some comments and issues and recommendations and try to convince the EPA of a route that we would like to take. In order to continue with that process moving forward, it's unfortunately come to the point where we need to hire an environmental attorney to carry the case even further. So I was moved and supported at committee level to approve the scope of work for Flattery and Hood for the Northern Heights Environmental Project, not to exceed $15,000.
Also move, Mayor.
Moved by Councilor Bearable. Is there support? Support by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Bearable, and then on
Just
to
to let the
Councilor.
rest of the councilors know, we do have a special meeting coming up with the attorney that's going to represent us.
Right, we're receiving notice of a closed meeting for that purpose, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Freely?
And my understanding that Flaherty Hood specializes in environmental issues.
They do?
And could I ask Mr. Lindsay, is this a typical process to approve a contract not to exceed a particular amount if in fact we don't know that it may not exceed that amount?
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes, the proposal that was made by Flaherty and Hood is fairly standard.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9.2D, allow the city attorney and the city administrator and relevant staff to negotiate a contract with Essentia Health relative to the information that was discussed in closed session. We directed the city attorney and city administrator to do that. And it was moved and supported at committee level to move forward with that. And then we do have some information where an additional meeting, closed meeting, will likely be scheduled for during the next committee, the whole meeting, to discuss this particular issue. We have some additional information from our staff and from our city attorney, Mr. Lindsay, with respect to this. So, but it was moved and supported to direct city attorney and staff and administrator and staff to negotiate the contract relative to our closed session discussions last meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support? Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Fortunately, that was a short committee of the whole meeting report. Usually it's a long one, so I was fortunate. So, okay, let's move to item 10, which is the commission liaison and department head reports. And I'll ask any of the city councilors if you have a report that you'd like to give before the council this evening. Seeing none, we'll move to our department head reports. First, we'll go to our city finance director, Sherry Erickson. Sherry? Hey, City Clerk Pam Levine, any comments or concerns that you might have, or any you'd like to make, Mr. Lindsay?
Nothing at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a email from our city minister, Britzy Bennett, and she asked that I share this with you. As some of you probably already know, she shared with staff that she's home from her surgery. She's recuperating. She needs a couple of days, and then, she'll be back on her feet and hopefully moving forward. So she'll be directing and delegating from a remote location for a while. So, all right, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to bring before? Okay, one more announcement. And we have the Laurentian Chamber dinner. I was remiss, when is that, Pam? Do you know by chance? Okay, February 28th is the Laurentian Chamber event. I think the cost for non-members is $110. So, we ask that if you were able to attend and can free up your time, that would be a good event to attend. Steve is an ambassador, and he's been to many of those. I've been to many, Councilor Bearable as well. I think Councilor Paulson's been to a couple. So we look forward to having, representation there from the city. So, okay, thank you.
Mayor, my wife and I are both going already. We've already signed up. So Gail and I are both going.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Councilor Bearable. Okay, Councilor Barnzelli, did you have something you'd like to bring up?
Yes.
Very good.
We're going to be voting at the Miners Memorial Building this year, right? All the voting? Because of the last,
All 5 precincts will be there.
yes, rather than that's the Washington man or
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, absentee voting, will still, be taking place at the senior center, right? No. They won't be? City Hall. City Hall, excuse me, at City Hall. Absentee voting is still, excuse me, up until March 3rd, absentee voting is still available at City Hall. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up before we adjourn for this evening? Seeing none, thank you for everybody for everything. Thank you particularly to DSGW and our design team with the Park and Rec, particularly Mike Mohar and Greg Gilness, thank you, and Brian as our leader, Brian Silber, moving forward with that. So we're excited to move forward with that. So all the hard work that you've all done on that is commendable. Thank you very much. So seeing nothing else come before the committee today or for the city council, we will stand adjourned to our next council meeting Tuesday, February 25th at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Good night. Stand adjourned.